Gone.
Are the days of any semblance of security. Today we have improved with subscriptions, buy now and pay later, worry about the consequences, never. You can afford your Pinterest board right now, today. Hello and welcome to this week's video. Today I wanted to talk about why, especially the younger generation, thinks life is over at 20. First of all, to leave the house is to pay, and not to pay a small amount. To pay a lot of money to get a dish of, let's say, pasta. It's like, what, 20 plus before tax, and then when you come home you're like, why did I spend that much for one meal? And then you stay home to save money because yeah, you wanna progress. But that's the thing, things are advertised as if this age range from, like, let's say 20 to like 30, 35 maybe, is like supposed to be the best time of your life. But at the same time, with the cost of things, is it? I mean, maybe for some people who enjoy being at home, like I like to be home. Yeah, I do prefer to be home, but at the same time, I know lots of people like to go places and like hang out with their friends, but like besides the parks, which are also, especially certain parks, I feel like are more for kids, kind of. And it's kind of like strange to see like lots of like young adults hanging out in a, not that I'm not saying it's sketchy, okay, I'm off topic. Anyways, the cookie cutter kind of definition of success isn't as linear as people thought, which I mean always was the case. But I don't think we're being shown as much of the struggles of the older generation at our age as we should. Like, we don't really talk about things like being rejected from jobs, that kind of thing, and that often. At least, like, experiences from previous generations, because that's something that's kind of, like, puts things into perspective, that, like, now we have the issue of, like, not hearing back, but at the same time, people before us still had to deal with some of the issues now, but now they're kind of, like, it's the same issues appearing tailored to our generation in a way. The societal pressure part of it, how our milestones are not the same as they were in the past, or just aren't working out the same. For example, you would grow up and go to school, go to college or university with your degree or do postgraduate, and then you would get a job and work at that job for a long time. And if you did switch jobs, it was still usually a longer term thing. But now, in order to make more money, our generation has to, for most of the time, have a job, have a part-time job. At least where I'm from, I think it's very common to have multiple jobs in order to like keep up with things. Like, I think most people I know have at least 2 or 3. Yeah, at least 2 active ones, I would say, and like maybe a side source of income. There's an article talking about how much of this generation specifically like lives at home, which I think is a really good financial decision, especially if you guys can get along. Because I've heard some stories of people just not. It depends, because some personalities are, I guess, harder to get along with. But I think if you understand that it is a good financial decision to stay, it makes sense. And I think it's a blessing too. But at the same time, I see people kind of getting like disillusioned by the fact that the school they were promised to get them a good job, a good paying job, is very competitive now and not really a guarantee as it has been in the past. Another thing that a lot of them like struggle with is comparing themselves. Like, no wonder this generation has so much anxiety. Uncertainty is very much present. You don't really know in the next 5 years which jobs will have like mass layoffs, or if your position will exist because of things like artificial intelligence, which is something in and of itself. Yeah. Another thing is, well, we see a lot of how they started their 6-figure business in 10 days, that kind of thing, how to get rich quick, etc. We forget to consider, or some people might forget to consider that a lot of these startups or a 6-figure in a week type video has a lot to do with things like not nepotism, but generational wealth that people don't necessarily look into further. Yeah, like you never really know if they had a head start. I could put a clip of Trump's $1 million loan, and I think that would kind of start clear. A lot of people moving out later, a lot of people are finding people later, starting families later, that kind of thing. Yet the people are kind of like sad by that because I think they also had lots of expectations for what something or what this age range would be. But at the same time, in other cultures, it's not so common to leave your house that early. It is definitely a Western world perspective to as soon as you hit 18, you're gone. That's it. Since most of Gen Z is dealing with it. If you are also Gen Z, you're not alone. Well, I still live at home, but I think I'm very grateful because it is something that's been helpful for me. The cost of living has skyrocketed, and things that were once in reach are much further nowadays. Like the definition of success is kind of like all over the place. On one hand, I would say like my idea of success is working on things that like give me energy. Making these videos is something that I find very fun, but my idea of success has to do with like maybe one day having my own crops and stuff and like food and fresh food. For example, like things like mangoes and strawberries. To grow your own food is a luxury because you don't have to buy it anymore. You can just let me hop outside because you put in the work and you've grown it, and then now that's technically success if you think about it by definition. If you put in the work and you take time and you nurture it, it will grow. Unfortunately, that logic doesn't really apply in a lot of situations. Lots of people have had the type of help that most people, and it can be very discouraging to see. The new definition of success, comparing ourselves hasn't helped. A lot of us struggle with fearing failure and stagnate. The need to like always be doing something that contributes to get somewhere. We struggle with what I would call an overly connected disconnect, where we have so much access to each other without the presence associated with it. That we have so much information on other people's lives without needing to ever like talk to them. So many people we probably wouldn't know exist on this planet without things like the internet, newspaper, that kind of thing. Like we wouldn't know. We enjoy learning about like new inventions, or like slowly we're inundated with a lot of bad news all the time. Not only that, we're constantly being fed like an algorithm that is tailored to exactly what we want to see or what we interact with. We struggle with synthetic success. I miss when people would post more behind the scenes of creating things, but always getting to see edited versions, completely cleaned up. We see a lifestyle that doesn't really add up for at least most people, and it makes a lot of us feel behind because you see like the small percentage of people, or you think they can, like afford a certain lifestyle, but maybe they can't. People crave a lot of authentic connection, but it is hard to find in an age when everything is like overanalyzed and people overthink and people don't really commit to trying to improve their connections with people. Yeah, it can be very difficult, but like depending on what a person wants, they can adjust accordingly. We see the kind of lifestyle that would be glamorous and expensive, but sometimes things, even though they look to be a certain way, might not be like that in reality. With some documentaries, I think we've been seeing that a lot, especially with kid influencers and that kind of thing, that kind of world seems. When it comes to comparing our lives, it's helpful to be mindful of where you are, and if you want to compare yourself to who you were before, because time is always moving, and even if you feel you're in a rut, life's kind of a roller coaster, and there are always going to be ups and downs. I think we've gotten to the point where we will idealize everything and have our expectations set up so high that we kind of set ourselves up to be disappointed. But I think it's okay to appreciate things for what they are sometimes. Algorithm to have us see more of what we want or who we want to be and what we want to have. I don't think it's beneficial to us, but it is beneficial for companies because they know what you'll click and then know that you'll click it again. So it contributes to the fear of falling behind, as I said. Next is we can't disconnect fully. It's kind of become a societal norm to have Instagram. Like you used to ask people for their phone number, email, but now you ask for their social media. Which I mean, I guess it's convenient, but they expect it right off the bat. Normally, if I wanted to know what was going on the other side of the world, I'd actually go there, but first of all, it's expensive. Second of all, we have the internet. But we also can't disconnect in the fact that like working remote, you're expected to answer and at least check your email like multiple, 1 or 2 times a day minimum, right? But you can't really fully be too far from your device without needing to attend to something. And everything's urgent because we're all used to like the instantaneousness of messages and email. We expect people to be at our beck and call base. Turning off your phone for like, let's say a week would probably cause a lot of issues, which is, it speaks a lot to how our situation is right now. Next section is on avoiding independence. First of all, the cost of independence is high, not only for like the monetary amount, but it is something that takes time to get to the point that it's like feasible and doesn't put you into like emotional turmoil as well. But at the same time, in terms of socializing, Gen Z barely is clubbing now. Like, what do they do? But like, that's the thing. But what do they do? A lot of us feel like we're stuck. I think finding like happy things to be happy about is the way to stay sane and enjoy things. Because it's okay if you have fun with like little things and have hobbies. I see people talk about them, but talk about it in the sense of I'm doing the hobby to show people that I have hobby. That you can have a hobby that's just for you and just for fun. I still love a good draw. I still love a good paint. I like to read sometimes, but like it's okay to just enjoy a little bit sometimes in moderation. I do understand that times are very much different. Job security just doesn't exist. Benefits, where pension, that kind of thing. I feel like our generation might have like tons of insolvencies, and good luck with pension. Yeah, that's the thing. If you think about the amount you probably need to retire, or the amount the generation right now retiring needs, is already a lot. But to think about how much the wages are and how often people are laid off, plus how much you will need, I think a lot of us we're gonna be working a lot. Retirement is not in the cards, which I can't sit with for a long time. That will get existent. Yeah, plus AI. I know people in computer science are probably having a hard time. Some of them are probably doing great, but the thing is, the people who are working on the things that are gonna replace them, you're getting your life salary in a single year, and then you might get laid off, and then now what do you do? That's why I say I think it's really important that we have things outside of, work. It's down to my second last section. I get why some people are not as keen on working with Gen Z, because I've seen certain behaviors are things like quiet quitting or very loud quitting is like kind of the first one. I do think a lot of people have given up for things like lack of opportunity. I know for entry-level positions, the requirements are like pretty steep for what you get out of, and things like ghost job, putting all that time into tailoring something to the position and you don't hear back. I kind of get we deal with a lot of things like lack of, there's a rush to like find exactly what we want to do, where we want to be, who we want to be really early, when we kind of have a lot of our lives left in theory, because no one can really predict that. But still, yeah, like 20, you're not even at the halfway. Yeah, and we're going crazy. In life, nothing is guaranteed. At this point, we're really dealing with a lot of uncertainty, which is why it's so difficult right now. And yeah, fear of missing out. We see some people like traveling year-round, which is like good for you, but that's not very realistic. And I think if we look to people like our own age as well, the majority of people having a hard time. So it's not just you. Time for my conclusion, or else I will be here all day. I said that last time, and I'll probably say it next time too. Thank you so much for watching this video. I am so grateful that you stayed to the end. If you want to see another video like this, I made one last week talking about the Miyazaki Ghibli AI situation. You can find that probably one of these sides. If you want to see more like this as well, don't forget to subscribe. I'd love to see your comments if you guys have any thoughts on the situation. It would mean a lot. And that's it. Have a great day. Bye. Here are some other tips I have. This is all not in order, but it's okay. Tip for not getting too existential like all the time. Having a notebook, like an everything notebook, where like you just put all your ideas into one place and your thoughts and get it out. Because I think the worst is when you ruminate on it and you keep thinking like too much. I think we're losing the plot, and then it turns into things like anxiety. If you are feeling behind, doing little things in your control and setting achievable goals that are like closer to where you want to go helps. Be cringe. People are weird. Weird is good. That's my thought. Yeah. Don't change yourself for anybody. It's not worth it. Just have fun. Life isn't that serious. At the end of the day, you get to control your actions, and those actions are what lead to progress. Yeah. I don't know why that was so hard to say. We should also move away from identifying ourselves with objects and focus more on the experience.